Welcome to the Astro Guy podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Zoll. This month, we're going to take a look at what's going on with the planets, what you can see and what you can't, and we're going to take a look at two relatively obscure constellations. These constellations are lower in the sky for the northern hemisphere, but they are visible from all of the U.S. as well as most of Europe and deep into the southern hemisphere. So we take a look at these two constellations and some of the wonders that they have within them, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So stick around, and I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the Astro Guy podcast. I'm not an expert, I'm an amateur like you. I'm here to learn and here to teach. So let's enjoy the ride together. Carpe Noctem, seize the night.
Welcome to What's Up in the May 2023 skies. I'm your host, Wayne Zoll, and this is the Astro Guy podcast. On the 5th of May, the moon will be full, and as often happens near a solar eclipse, like the hybrid eclipse that was seen in the southern hemisphere on April 20th, there is a corresponding lunar eclipse that will be visible at an adjacent full moon. This time around on May 5th, observers in Antarctica, Australia, Africa, as well as most of Europe and Asia, will be able to witness a partial penumbral lunar eclipse. Unfortunately, a penumbral eclipse is barely noticeable, so this will not be anything like the total lunar eclipse that was seen this past November. Moving on to the planets, Mercury is lost in the glare of the sun for most of May, making a poor apparition around the middle of the month, just a few degrees over the horizon before sunrise. Venus dominates the evening skies this month, and on the 1st, Venus shines brightly at magnitude minus 4.15, showing a gibbous phase about 66% lit. On the 31st, the planet will be even brighter at magnitude minus 4.37, and the phase will have shrunk to 51%. So why is it getting brighter if the phase is lessening? At the start of May, Venus will be further from us than it will be at the end of May. The disk of Venus grows from about 17 arcseconds on the 1st to more than 22 arcseconds on the 31st. Simply put, it's brighter because we're closer to it. Venus starts the month in the constellation Taurus, but around the middle of the month it moves into Gemini. On May 22nd, the crescent moon will be about 6 degrees west of Venus and about 5 degrees east of it on the 23rd. That should make for a beautiful sight. Mars is quickly fading and setting earlier each evening. It begins the month in Gemini, and by mid-May, it will be in Cancer. On the 31st, Mars will be near the open cluster M44, known as the Beehive Cluster. On the 24th, the crescent moon will be about 4 degrees northeast of Mars. Jupiter is lost in the glow of the sun all month and will reemerge in the morning skies later in June. Saturn is low in the morning skies in Aquarius for all of May and is best seen an hour or two before sunrise. This fall, we can look forward to enjoying Saturn in the evening skies as it nears opposition. Uranus and Neptune are both lost in the glow of the sun all month. On the evening of May 5th, going into the 6th, the Eta Aquariid meteor shower will be at its peak. Unfortunately, the moon will be full and will likely make seeing the faint meteors nearly impossible. It's not a great year for the Eta Aquariids. By the middle of May, or possibly sooner, I'll be releasing an episode on how I took an image of M81, Bode's Galaxy. I go through the entire process from setting up my scope, capturing the images, to stacking and post-processing the image to get the final result. If you're interested in astrophotography, you may find it very educational. Please let your friends who are interested in astrophotography know about it. Moving on to deep sky objects, this month we're going to explore the constellations Corvus the Crow and Crater the Cup and explore a little bit of what they have to offer. The tiny constellation Corvus is relatively easy to spot, as its 4 brightest stars resemble a skewed keystone. The 4 stars are between magnitude 2.6 and 3 and appear low on the southern horizon as darkness falls in May. Being that the constellation sits at a declination between -12 and -25 degrees, it's well placed for viewers in most of the world except for the far northern latitudes. Few people live above the Arctic Circle, so the ones there will miss out on this constellation. An interesting star of note is Algorab, or Delta Corvi. Of the 4 bright stars in the constellation, Algorab is the northernmost one. It glows at magnitude 2.95 and is actually a double star. The secondary star is much fainter at magnitude 8.25, and it's located about 25 arcseconds away from the primary star. You'll need at least a 3-inch scope to spot it. Try boosting the magnification, as this should make the secondary star a bit easier to see. This pair of stars is located about 88 light-years away from us. Corvus holds many deep sky objects, but the most famous object in Corvus is the Sombrero Galaxy, cataloged as M104. We view this galaxy almost edge-on, and it has a dark dust lane that bisects the galaxy. The galaxy glows at magnitude 8 and spans about 8.5 by 5 arc-minutes, and is located about 31 million light-years away from us. From dark skies, you can easily spot the Sombrero in binoculars, and it's easy to spot in almost any telescope, as long as you're well dark adapted and away from city lights. To locate the Sombrero, start at Algorab, and you should see a magnitude 4.5 star, Eta Corvi, about half a degree to the northeast. Follow the line from Algorab to Eta Corvi for about 2.5 degrees, and then sweep north about 3.5 degrees, and at low power, you should see the galaxy in your eyepiece. The further south you're observing this from places it higher in the sky, making for much better views of this well-photographed and well-studied galaxy. If you're up for a little bit of a challenge, try to spot the planetary nebula NGC 4361, sometimes called the Lawn Sprinkler Nebula. As in long-exposure images, it appears to look a little bit like its namesake. It's relatively easy to locate, but it's best seen with at least a 6-inch telescope. This nebula holds within it one of the hottest stars ever observed and is located about 3,400 light-years away from us. The nebula is home to a Wolf-Rayet star that has a temperature of 270,000 degrees Kelvin. The star, which is almost 18,000 times brighter than our Sun, is a mere 6% the size of our Sun. Wow. The nebula glows at magnitude 10.9 and spans a little over 1 arc-minute across. To locate NGC 4361, follow that line from Eta Corvi to Algorab, and from Algorab follow that line 1.5 degrees, then sweep south 1.5 degrees, and you should see the nebula. Located just west of Corvus is the constellation Crater, the Cup. This is one of the few constellations that actually look like what it's supposed to represent. Most of the stars in this constellation are pretty faint. The brightest star in Crater is magnitude 3.56, and the next brightest star is magnitude 4.08. So this constellation is best seen from very dark skies. The brightest deep sky object in Crater is the small lenticular galaxy NGC 3831. You'll need at least a 6-inch scope under dark skies to spot this galaxy. If you're using a 10-inch or larger scope, you might be able to spot several other galaxies in the same field of view. NGC 3831 glows at magnitude 10.9, and the galaxy spans about 2.5 arc-minutes by about 30 arc-seconds, so it's not very big, but its light is compact, making it a little bit easier to spot. This galaxy is far away from us, located more than 242 million light-years away. To locate NGC 3831, start at the brightest star in the constellation, Delta Crateris, and sweep 5.5 degrees east, and then sweep just under 2 degrees north, and you should spot the galaxy. I hope that you enjoyed this month's tour. Well, that's all for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I've hoped that you found our time together to be fun and helpful. If you have questions or episode suggestions, please email us at astroguypodcast@gmail.com or leave us a text or a voicemail message at 973-404-0380. If you're not already a member, please join the Astro Guy podcast group on Facebook. You'll find other members, videos, blogs, and other useful information there for your enjoyment. You can also visit our YouTube channel, the Astro Guy Podcast, for past episodes and other surprises. Please subscribe. It really helps. Please consider leaving us a review on your podcast platform. That also helps us to get new listeners. Thank you again for listening, and may your skies be clear. As always, Carpe Noctem, seize the night.
I'm Wayne Zool, and this was the Astro Guy Podcast. Thank you for listening. As always, your questions, comments, and suggestions are welcome. Keep wondering. Keep your eyes on the sky. Have fun. Carpe Noctem. Seize the night.